What is going on, brothers and sisters of today? So we are going to go over something about how tough it is to trust in God's way, and then how to actually be able to do it efficiently. Okay, so with context, as any single human being that is a believer within Christ has such a hard time doing, is trusting in God completely, 100%. Because no matter what, us as people, we're going to have doubts. Okay? So, one of the biggest things that I learned when I was trying to explore this was looking at the disciples. Okay? Because they were followers of Christ and eyewitnesses of Christ. And some of them watched him get crucified, and some of them watched him get resurrected and then be in front of them. Okay? So, with this in mind, it's so hard to actually trust in God. Because you might be going through something in your day where you start feeling bad, right? Maybe, say you get some bad news and you don't know if you're actually going to be able to get your job or not. Or maybe you don't know if you're going to stay at your job or not. Or maybe you won't be able to stay at your home. Or maybe you're at the airport and you don't think that you're going to make it home on time. All these things will happen in our lives. And then we will lose sight of trusting that the Lord is in protection of us rather than us gaining control to protect ourselves. That is a common misconception that happens, and it's totally normal. But the thing is, it's normal because we're humans, but it's not okay because we're not trusting in God. And you're indirectly not loving Him to the fullest. Because what is the definition of love in the Bible? It's devotion, it's commitment, and it's sacrificial. Okay? With those three, it comes with a price. And it's something that we can't fulfill. And that is why Jesus did what he did to fulfill those things, because we are not capable of doing those things. Now, when I say that we need to love God, we need to devote ourselves, right? And it's so easy to just say this, right? And then compared to doing it, right? Like, you could probably be listening to me and then be like, oh, come on. Like, I got this going on. I got that going on. But the reality of it is, though, like, you're having a victim mindset throughout the whole thing if you're thinking that way. Because the thing is, when you're saying, oh, I got this going on, but I have this going on, everyone is going through something. Everyone is wishing what you had in your life. Everyone. Every single person is at some point is wishing what you have. And it goes on and it goes on. Okay, so that's one spot to focus on, is that be grateful for the things you have, first of all. Okay? That's a first step into the right direction. Now, not to beat yourself up, don't beat yourself up over this whenever you do feel like you're starting to doubt. Because it is, again, normal. Because think about it in the Gospels. When Jesus resurrected, some of the disciples saw Jesus when they were walking, right? And they didn't realize it until Jesus was like, look, it's me. And they're like, wow, and started praising and running straight to the other disciples. They come back, and Thomas specifically, after they were preaching all these things and saying that they saw Jesus, Thomas specifically was like, I'm not going to believe. I will never believe until I see the marks of nails in his hands and then the pierce in his side. One of Jesus' disciples that studied him, that watched him, that followed him, doubted him. The thing was, he was able to have a real life experience with him. In person. You can see with your eyes. You can touch. You can smell. You can hear. Think about that. It's very interesting, right? And you might think, well, how could you do that? Well, it's human nature. Right? Like Peter. He denied Jesus 3 times before the rooster crowed. Another really close disciple of Jesus. So when you think about these in context, don't beat yourself up, because the disciples, even the disciples, fell short of fully trusting in what God has. Okay, but what's important though is getting back up and then trusting God again. And it's just like with any sin that you have in your life. You get back up and you don't do it. Right? Sure, you might fall when you are striving, but your plan is not to do it. Right? In your heart, in your mind, and in your soul, because you're loving God. So, how do we not worry? Well, the Bible gives us clear instructions on what to do. First of all, you are going through a spiritual battle, right? You have to recognize that. You're going through a literal war when you are going against God in any regard. If you're not trusting Him, if you're not loving Him, if you're disrespecting Him, all these things. And the enemy's goal is to what? Steer you away from God, right? So, when you are in battle, what do you need? Probably a sword, right? If we're talking about medieval times, let's just put it simply. You probably need a sword, a shield, some armor, right? Like just to protect yourself and then also to attack. Okay? And that's exactly what Ephesians 6 talks about that with Paul. He talks about all this armor, right? All this defense. And then there's one offense. It's the sword of the Spirit. Okay? Now what is the sword of the Spirit? It's the sword of the Word. The Word is the Spirit. Okay, you receive the Spirit from Jesus and from the Word. So, with that being said, what do you do to receive that? You read the Bible, because that is your arsenal. There is plenty of offensive moves in here to help you attack the enemy rather than just take a beating constantly in your armor. Right? Another thing, prayer. Jesus does say that whenever you are having any doubts, whenever you have any worries, be mindful and pray. Now, some of the times you may sit there and be like, well, I pray, but it doesn't do anything. You didn't pray long enough, right? You didn't pray hard enough. That's the thing. When you go through certain things in your life and it's going pretty bad, that means you need to be around God more. It's this balance, right? Because, when everything's going fine and dandy, you start to stop loving God as much because you're getting blessed. And I've seen this a lot in the church. And I do it myself sometimes, right? I'm guilty of it. I'm no one perfect, right? But then when things go really bad, you start to rely on God more. You start to lean on Him more, right? So when that happens, and things start going bad, remember, it's time for you to really lean on God. Even when everything's going good, really lean on God. Because guess what? There's a valley going to be coming. Okay? There's always a peak and there's always a valley. So be prepared. Don't worry. Do not be afraid. Do not be paranoid. But be prepared. Do not be ignorant. Be prepared. Right? So, with that being said, those are two things that you could easily do. Okay? And the third thing, again, which I said at the beginning, is to be grateful for what you have right now. When you start telling yourself, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that, you start to allow your mind to look at more positives rather than fixate on the negatives. That's how the human mind works. And it even says in the Bible, too, that the tongue can bring life or it can start a wildfire. That's pretty wild, isn't it? But it's true. Because what happens when you speak? Your tongue moves to be able to make certain words. Okay? And so when you speak the right things, you speak the fruitful things, you speak the positive things, you are bringing life into your life. Right? You're bringing life to your life. But when you start speaking negative things, you are destroying your soul. You are destroying your mind. Maybe not on a huge scale, but think about it. Think about all the negative things that you have said in your life. They stacked up a lot, haven't they? Probably. Now imagine if you reverse that to positive things. Your life would be completely different. And I can guarantee that. And I actually want to say, with all these three things in mind, try it for yourself. Don't just listen and then not do it, but sit there. Write it down, take out a piece of paper or your notes. Okay? Pray as much as you possibly can until whatever you're dealing with is gone. It's the first thing. Read every part of Scripture that has to deal with the certain thoughts that you're dealing with at any time. And the third thing, any time that you're going through something, find 5 things to be grateful for. Now, if you apply those 3 things, your life will change. And the thing is, what's beautiful about God's glory is that it's not an instant thing like the devil promises. It's something you have to work towards.